Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, live and direct from BZ Sierra Nevada Airy in occupied California, doing the job the American media maggots won't, featuring right thinking from a left brain, working without a net and under an assassination order. Here is the bloviating Zeppelin.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K. And I am now 7 miles south of the locus of evil on the entire left coast of the Bill Mill, the belly of the beast, the California Capitol building at 10th and L Streets in downtown Sacramento. Now, remember that tonight's show consists entirely of my opinion and my opinion only, and that this is an exhibition, not a competition, so please, no wagering. Also, again, Back Air Bernadette is going to be your server tonight. She pours for the best of them, and the lava lamp is still lighted. It's been lighted for the past week, though you can't see it because we are temporarily no longer doing video until we get to a free state. And I also have to tell you this. We don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. Let there be no mistake. I love my country, but I abjure its leftist leaders and anyone who won't put America and its lawful citizens first. Obey the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, uphold the rule of law, and embrace due process. So you know what? If that makes me a white supremacist, terrorist, extremist, then so be it. Tonight, we have the return of a great individual in the Saloon. First, let's see if he's here. Oh, please. Crossed fingers for technology. Jack Alexander, are you there? Ah, okay. Well, let's see. Why am I not getting this? Okay, tell you what. I am going to have to call you back because for whatever reason, this is not working. So, Jack, let me call you back. Back, Jack, and I'll be right back. All right. Now, why wasn't my speaker working? I had this Bluetoothed in. Yes, 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 and then yes. So let's go here again. And I did this. I called earlier. Well, it happens to me all the time. This is the, here we go. Okay, let's try this. And let's try this. And connecting. Okay. Let's try it. Jack, you there? Okay. This is, boy, am I going to have to edit the crap out of this to make sure that this is, I got Jack last time, and I don't know why I don't have Jack now. Okay. Jack, I think what I'll have to do is call you if you can hear me. I think I'm going to have to call you on Facebook and see if that works out. So let's see if that goes. Jack. Now, see, I should be hearing this. Okay. Why am I not getting anything on this? Jack Alexander is in chat. Jack, if you're listening, I'm calling you on Facebook. But, okay, how about now? Okay, and nothing, absolutely nothing is working. Okay, Jack, can you see if you can call me back on Facebook, if you would? Thank you very much. Because now I have an issue with that, and I may just have to go on with the show until I can get my guest back in, who will be Jack Alexander. So, in the meantime, let me see if perhaps I can do this, go over here for
the Bloviating Zeppelins HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update, courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And HeyJackass.com, illustrating Chicago values. HeyJackass.com. So for the wonderful Mayor Lori Lightfoot score, final July totals versus July of 2020. Shot and killed 105, shot and wounded 517, total shot 622, total homicides 110. That's up 96 homicides from last year in Chicago. Yay! And also August to date, because it's only August 5th, shot and killed 11, shot and wounded 52, total shot 63, total homicides 11. Year to date for Chicago, shot and killed 451, shot and wounded 2,174, total shot 2,625 people, total homicides 476. Now, in the 2021 Chicago shot clock, a person is shot every 1 minute and 59 seconds, and a person is murdered every 10 minutes and 54 seconds in the lovely city of Chicago, run by Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Jack, do you happen to be there? I've got it open, and I should be hearing you. And why am I not hearing you? Because I've got this wide open. Are you there, Jack? Damn it, Jim. I'm going to have to continue the show. Here's another interesting point along with that. You know what? Let's do? Let's do one of these until I get a hold of Jack. We'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunetz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunetz.
For 50 years, I've seen the American people blinded by corrupt politicians, a lapdog media, and deceptive Islam. The one thing the elites fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through Spreaker, iTunes, and SoundCloud, through SHR Media and the Western Free Radio Network, for half a century of experienced perspective on political and social issues, weekly on The Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found.
Except, do I have Jack Alexander now?
I hope you do.
Whew, okay, I think I found out what happened, but it really doesn't matter because you're here right now. So, Jack Alexander, thank you very much. Once again, it wasn't anything that Jack did. It is obviously something 100% that I did. So, welcome to Jack Alexander. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming back.
Always a pleasure, man.
I also was trying something different tonight, and I discovered a new way, a new input to audio. I tried it earlier yesterday to make sure that the audio works, and I believe it does. So, tonight, Jack and I are going to go over a whole bunch of things. Oh, my God. The torture never stops here in the United States of America. And that would also be true in Australia and also Canada, because there's new information out in Canada as well. I'll go into that. And I also discovered a very new and unique video, but you won't see the video, audio only, which I will be playing in a moment, from a nurse in Florida. This, to me, was very revelatory. But before we go any further, damn me for not saying, Jack Alexander, can you tell people, since you have your own show, can you tell people where they can go for your show and what's it about, please?
It's called the Jack Alexander Experiment. It's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights at 11 p.m. So if you're up listening to BZ at this time of night, you'll be able to get it. Twitch.com/Jack Alexander Experiment. You can catch the live stream. If you miss the live stream, then you can always get it at rumble.com. Do a search for the Jack Alexander Experiment. Or if you're one of those wonderful truckers that listen to BZ's show all the time, anywhere good podcasts can be found, you can also grab it there. So that's the best way of getting me. But I'm also on a ton of social media. I mean, we're in, I'm on Fascist Book. I've just gotten out of Fascist Book jail, probation again. You'll no longer find me on YouTube. Those sons of bitches permanently banned me from posting apparently it is a bannable offence to be an honest journalist on YouTube. So I'm not on YouTube anymore, but Parler, Gab, Magabook, Pro America Only, MeWe, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Well, that's a whole bunch of places. I'd say you certainly covered the waterfront on that.
If I spread myself around anymore, I'm going to catch some nasty social computer disease.
Likely. And because Jack is in Australia. Now, you're in the, what would that be? Let's see. Let me do a visual here in my brain. You're in the southeast portion of Australia. You're in Victoria, correct?
Unfortunately, correct, yes.
Yes, unfortunately. And I must play this because I've actually paid money for this, so...
Tonight's topics aren't going to discuss themselves. So it's tomorrow's news today with Australia's Jack Alexander here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
And Jack Alexander, why do I call it tomorrow's news today, sir?
Well, that's because it's already tomorrow here. It is, what is it? Almost 20 past 1 on in the afternoon on a Friday.
So, if we're in summer, you're in winter.
Yes, that too. Everything here's ass backwards. Even the water goes down the drain the wrong way here.
That's right. Or it goes around the right way there and the wrong way up here, because that's the Coriolis effect, and you're in the southern hemisphere, and we're in the southern hemisphere. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of things tonight. I promised a video. I would advise everyone to listen carefully if you can, because this is a nurse making a statement that I've never heard someone make before. Let's see if she'll talk to me.
I work for a large hospital system in Broward County, Florida, on the anesthesia team. Last night, the house nurse manager came to my department and told us that we must prepare for a COVID crisis that's going to start next week.
Really?
And the hospital will be taking part of our recovery unit, anesthesia recovery unit, to house COVID patients. And that we cannot allow surgical patients' families to come visit them, which we do pre and post surgery, pre and post anesthesia. That we cannot allow surgical patients' families to come visit them, which we do pre and post surgery, pre and post anesthesia. And I looked at her and I said, how do you know you're going to need our rooms, our bays? And how do you know there's going to be a crisis next week? She tilted down her glasses, she looked at me, and she said, you know what's going on by now. And I said, yeah, I do. And everyone else just went, oh, here we go again, and shrugged their shoulders. Does anyone else find this really strange besides me? It's about time that this whole corrupted, stinking system is brought down. Seriously. Because I'm really hating my job right now. I can't stand this corruption anymore. Please share.
I find that very interesting for a number of reasons. If you were listening closely and it was difficult to, and I'll mention this. The last time I played this video, which is on Facebook still, her voice was normal. So, because I've been disabused of coincidence for the past, 5 years or more, I'm wondering if this is Facebook, because it sounded perfectly normal the last time I played this yesterday, that Facebook has decided to go in to screw with the video because I don't put anything past Facebook. But if you were listening to what she said, she is a nurse in Florida who was told by her supervisor to get prepared for a great number of COVID cases coming into the hospital. And she asked, logically so, okay, how do you know that? And her supervisor said, oh, well, you know. Now, Jack Alexander, does that say anything in particular to you?
Oh, it speaks volumes. I mean, right from the start of this, I've been saying there's been something suspicious about it. Now, and look, let me get this out there before anyone, comes and tries to. The virus, SARS-CoV-2, the virus itself is real. It does make people sick. What is fake in all of this is all of this other ancillary bullshit that's going on with it. The never-ending cycle of lockdowns, the masks, the travel restrictions, the bans on international travel, all of that other stuff is fake. It's like Rahm Emanuel's old statement: never let a good crisis go to waste. And socialist-leaning governments the world over have jumped on this with abandon. And it's got to the point now where I am accurately predicting, at least in Victoria, when the next lockdowns are going to happen. Within 36 hours, my predictions are usually on the money. And, if I could pick the lottery numbers with such regularity, but it's really gotten beyond a joke. They keep locking people down, even though it hasn't worked the 5 previous times. But and they haven't changed any of their protocols. Every time somebody tries to, the media, some honest journalists try and press the state government over, okay, the first lockdown didn't work. What did you change? Oh, we can't talk about it. Okay, the second lockdown failed. What have you changed to make sure that doesn't, we don't need, we can't talk about it. What what expert advice are you getting from it? Oh, we're keeping that all government in confidence. We can't tell you. Even FOIA requests are coming back rejected on all of this because there is no science, no verifiable science that backs up the actions that these governments are taking. It's all about destroying small businesses in favor of the big union multinational companies that have a massive unionized workforce. With the exception of food deliveries in where I am now that we're back into this lockdown, after just 2 weeks out of yet another lockdown, only unionized jobs. If it's a unionized building site, you're fine. You can go to work. If you are a small non-unionized independent building contractor, nope. You can't travel more than 3 miles from your registered, and let me put that clear, registered address. It's even gotten to the point now where if you are a single person, you've just started dating someone, and you're living separately, you're not even allowed to travel across town for a little bit of hanky-panky because, well, that will get you a $5,000 fine. I honestly think that liberal-style governments are all about COVID to make it's COVID for fun and profit. The Victorian state government, the Treasury Office, announced so far since COVID started, out of the fines alone, they have raised more than 280% more money for the state coffers than what they would have earned had COVID not have happened and just through state taxes. Now, tell me they're not using COVID for fun and profit.
Well, it's a moneymaker. And it's also a situation that requires people to take advantage of it. I would submit this. I don't believe, and I could be disabused of this, but I don't believe that leftists, what I call the LDEM, leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots, knew this was coming, as evidenced by Pelosi walking around Chinatown and de Blasio walking around New York. But once it landed, and they recognized and realized fully what this portended, what they could do with this, the gates were wide open. And you have to say this for the leftists and the Democrats. They know how to take advantage of a crisis and use it to their own benefit. The GOP, they're still clueless and spineless for the most part.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to respectfully disagree about them not knowing about it coming. I honestly believe they knew and conspired. The whole point of Pelosi going to Chinatown was part of the conspiracy. It was to try and move attention away from this coming from China. I mean, there are so many U.S. Democrats with such close ties to the Chinese government. You know, everywhere you look, and when you start following the money. You know, I know Pelosi's campaign got a lot of money into her campaign from Huawei, the Chinese tech giant, which has, you know, its executives are all senior members of the Chinese Communist Party. And Huawei networking chips are known to have exploitable backdoors that Chinese hackers can use to get in. And I'd be curious, out of the big hacks that have happened lately, how many, like was it the Colonial Pipeline and the meat processing plant? How many of those have networking hardware that or networking equipment that has Huawei chips inside them, or were actually manufactured by one of the many brands that Huawei are making communication chips for?
That was one of the major concerns of 5G, allowing Huawei into the United States and allowing them to essentially take control of our 5G networks. I'm going to have to take a break here in about a minute. We have on for the full 2 hours tonight Jack Alexander. He's been on here a whole bunch of times. He's the sole proprietor and creator of the Jack Alexander Experiment. He gave you where his show can be found and at what times, I should say. When we return, I want to go over Chicago here very briefly. Take an alternative dive into Fauci and reveal something that I can guarantee you have not heard about the wonderful Dr. Fauci. Then we'll go to China, and then we will continue with coronavirus, and then we'll talk about, again with Jack Alexander, how many coronavirus deaths there really are in Australia. It must be of a staggering magnitude to lock down everyone so many times in Australia. People must be dying at your doorstep in Australia. Well, no, they aren't really. We'll find out about that.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGABook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. I'm back. Jack is back. We're all back. Baby got back. By the way, you can follow me on Twitter at BZEP at BZEP. If you would, share the show tonight all over. If you're listening on Spreaker, please hit share wherever you see that on Spreaker. I would greatly appreciate it. No video, but you know why. Jack is here tonight, and he was talking about what's been going on in Australia. And basically, it's nothing but unmitigated tyranny in Australia. Before we left for the break, I said, well, there must be thousands and thousands and thousands of people who have died or are dying in Australia for this to be your, what did you say, 6th lockdown now in Australia?
Yeah, 6th lockdown, and since New Year there has not been a single death from COVID.
Because I just went to my favorite search engine and looked up Australia cases. Now, this is as of August 5th. But, well, that's yesterday for you, today for me. In all of Australia, 35,384 cases. Now, that's cases. Deaths, folks, I hope you're sitting down. 927. Now, I'm not here to minimize deaths, but locking down an entire country, coming up to 6 times for 927 deaths, which in the big scheme of things, my guess would be, I'd have to look, but I don't have the information at my fingertips. My guess would be, Jack Alexander, that you've probably had people dying of the flu every year. And I should have thought about this, so it makes me wonder, okay, how many people in Australia die seasonally of the flu?
Australia-wide, I don't have the numbers, but I did have the numbers posted by the Victorian State Government for the year the estimated influenza deaths for 2020 before COVID blew up. They were expecting approximately 4,300. So, give the three most populous states now have similar populations. So, expediting it out, probably around 12,000 people would have been estimated to die from the flu last year. I brought this number to my local equivalent of a federal congressman who had the misfortune of bumping into me in my local IGA supermarket. And, he was not happy to see me. He was not happy to be hit with facts because the one thing every politician is scared of is an informed voter.
And facts.
And an informed voter armed with facts. And
no.
All he could do, because he is the same political persuasion as the dickwad that is running this state, he was, covering his socialist buddy's backside, like a gay man at an orgy. But this was just, he didn't like the fact that I said what was going on was illegal under the Australian Constitution, what few rights we have under it, that it was illegal under federal law, that it was, and I cite, this is what really pissed him off. I cited the actual legislation that was being violated, both state and federal. And then I cited international law that was being violated. And,
dang you.
And for that, because I'm an independent journalist, I'm just spinning that to my, that I'm just putting my spin on that. And I said, well, prove me wrong. If you think I'm spinning this the wrong way, where am I messing it up? And, he just brushed it aside. None of the politicians care what it's doing to the mental health of the population. Now, I know that we have had nearly 5 times more suicides because of COVID than we've had COVID deaths. I know of at least 18 people within 10 miles of my current location that have killed themselves because they couldn't deal with the isolation. Their entire, most of these people were elderly widows and widowers whose only social interaction, the old folks' community groups and so on.
Right.
Because their family lives across town, they couldn't get travel papers to travel across town to look after, grandma.
It's obscene.
There's a community group in a lot of areas around here called the Men's Shed, and it's basically retired men who get together and they spend the year making wooden toys for the disadvantaged at Christmas time. They meet 3 or 4 times a week. It is their primary, for many of these men, it is their primary social outlet. In the Whittlesea Men's Shed alone, there have been 7 suicides because of the isolation. Many others have picked up their alcoholism habit because it's these community groups that get shut down every time they lock down. They've got nothing to do with their time. So they wind up going to the bottle shop, to the liquor store, and get a case of whatever they used to drink and fall back on bad habits. The school kids are getting messed up. Now, I've got a special needs child. My second youngest is autistic. Every time they lock us down, and they lock us down with short notice, right? My kids were at school yesterday. They announced the lockdown after school had finished, which meant we had to break it to the two youngest kids. Now, my autistic child has worked really hard to get to a point where he can is confident enough to take part in the state school spectacular. It's a concert from all the government-run schools. Now, he has worked really hard in spite of his autism to get to a point where he can perform and be confident enough to stand up in front of people. 2 months in a row now, they have cancelled the rehearsals for this concert. My youngest child was meant to go on an excursion today, which has already been postponed 4 or 5 times. You know, my kids are feeling like they are being punished, and they don't know what they're being punished for. And I can't explain it to them because, you know, I just can't, you know. What do I say to them? You know, the government are doing things that are bad, you know, that are doing things that are illegal against the people. And, you know, their response is, well, why don't the police, you know, why can't the police stop them? And then I'm going to try to tell them the people that are leading the police are as bad, you know, and then that is undermining, you know, my kids' trust that we should be giving, you know, trust and respect in law enforcement. You know, it's not it's not our local small town, you know, cops that are the problem. It's the command it's the command structure in the city, and there are certain elements within law enforcement that normally would get weeded out. You know, that are in law enforcement for the power trip. And, you know, the number of abuses of people's civil liberties. Now, every time we get a lockdown, independent journalists like myself, admittedly, they haven't gotten me, but I you know, friends of mine who are also independent journalists have had police knock at their door. Every time there's a lockdown starts, or when it's going to start, they have police knocking up their door with a letter signed by the Premier of the state, the equivalent of the governor, and the state chief of police, telling these journalists to stay put in their homes. If you cover this, we will arrest you under the national terrorism laws for incitement. And, you know...
it's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, and when I mentioned the arrests of journalists to Rob Mitchell, my local congressman here, he did not see a problem with it. He didn't see a problem that the big leftist media maggot parasite networks, they don't need, you know, their company press credentials are fine. They can go anywhere they like. But if you are a freelance or independent journalist, you have to get credentialed from Victoria State Police. So I thought, okay, fine, I'll go through the process of this. They took one look at my podcast and went, there is no fucking way on this planet we are allowing you press credentials so you can report on what we're doing. And
gee, that wouldn't be because they can't control you, would it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Rob Mitchell has no problems with this. He is honestly of the opinion that the media should only the news media should only be broadcasting officially sanctioned reports. Now, I've worked in broadcasting in Australia on and off my entire adult life, you know, with breaks to go to college, and, you know, even then I worked part-time in it. My biggest break from the media would have been during the 10 years I was in the military. My first radio job was at 14 years of age, giving the livestock reports on a local AM station. Right? And I've known through my media career about a Section 10 block. And what basically an Article 10 or a Section 10 is on a news broadcast is that the federal government will come down and say, you can't say that. That is protected under the National Secrets Act. If you broadcast anything about that, you are fucked. Prepare for 10 years of being Bubba's bitch. And, they just keep narrowing the broadcast laws. I would never do talk radio in Australia. I did breakfast comedy and musical parodies and stuff. If there was a joke about feminine hygiene products that could be set to music as some sort of musical parody, I probably wrote it and performed it. I got up in a lobster suit at a bungee tower to make fun of a tampon commercial. I'm sure you can fill in the visuals on how that gag went. I would never do talk radio based in Australia because the laws that I would be arrested. And they have arrested journalists. One of the current Victorian senators was notorious when he was a journalist for being arrested. A guy by the name of Darren Hinch. But they've repeatedly arrested during this COVID thing, Avi Yemeni, and there's a few others whose names forget me at the moment. And the only reason they haven't cracked me is Jack Alexander is not my legal name. And I started doing that when I started working full time in broadcasting. The guy I was working for, a guy by the name of Doug Mulray, was having problem with a stalker, and he said, if you want to avoid the shit that I'm going through with stalkers and crazy fans and so on, don't use your real name. And so I didn't. But, Jack makes up my initials. Alexander happens to be my middle name. And that's fine. But I also was smart enough to hide my live broadcast behind a VPN. Now, while it's not the be-all and end-all of internet security, the state government has to go to a federal court to get a warrant to crack that information, which means they have to justify to a higher court. And I think that's the only reason why I don't have police knocking on my door. But, me being me and having the mouth that I do and never really knowing when to shut the hell up, in my day job, my paying job at the moment, I'm just, delivering food at nighttime out of a local fast food business. And if the local boys in blue walk in, I walk out of the room and I'll go and stand out the back because I know I will say something, it will break my cover, and, there'll be, someone else arrested. But, look, I shouldn't have to live this way to be a journalist.
You're living like it's East Germany.
Well, when I made that analogy to Rob Mitchell, he said, "Well, we're not cutting off people and disappearing them." And I said, "Really? What about the police beatings in the street?" I mean, you would have seen the video. So I know I sent you the link to it of 6 police with one of them stomping on the head of a guy they were trying to arrest. The police officer that kicked that guy in the head got off. They saw no reason for it, and what the local media didn't report about on this, that man was schizophrenic, and the COVID lockdowns had driven him to breaking point. He went to the local hospital in Epping, one of the northern suburbs of Melbourne, because they have a psych ward. He knew that he had enough sense about his mental health, knowing that if he didn't get help, he was going to either hurt himself or someone else, and he sought help. But the hospital had shut down everything because, oh, fuck, we've got to treat COVID. Nothing else matters. And they turned him away. And then, they then called the police. It was the hospital that called the police on him, as if he had escaped the psych ward. The psych ward was already closed. It had been closed for 2 weeks. This guy had, and then you get a rapid response team of like 10 coppers turning up, and the paranoia and the schizophrenia took over, and he lost it. And it ends now with this guy getting kicked in the head, and now with major brain. He's still being treated for major brain trauma. The guy was already restrained and on the ground. One of the officers who was not restraining him walks up and stomps on his head. My local congressman thought that was acceptable behavior by police. This is what we're dealing with here.
Well, it's disgusting and reprehensible. You're operating under tyranny, and as I have said any number of times, when you are on, folks, I hate to do this, but you're crying for it. Australia confiscated guns under a buyback plan, which they didn't really buy back, in 1996. And Australians are unarmed. Law enforcement is obviously armed. The military is armed. But there are other things. God, folks, I hope you're sitting down. And I'm going to try to remember them as best I can. Jack, please chime in. Obviously, you can't have long guns. You can't have semi-autos. You can't have handguns. Let's see if I remember.
Yes. Some of those you can. You can have a double-barrel shotgun.
Oh, okay.
You can get full-size handguns, and you can get pellet guns. The kicker to this is that to possess them, you must surrender your right to prohibit law enforcement from entering your property without a warrant.
Would that be to make sure that, as far as they're concerned, they are secure?
Yes. A former neighbor of mine, it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. He was cleaning his bolt-action 308 rifle, maximum magazine capacity of 5. You think California compliance with firearms is bad? No more than a magazine capacity of 5 in any long gun. You're only allowed double-barrel shotguns, and I think your full-size handguns are limited to 6 rounds because that's what goes into a revolver, even if it's capable of taking more. You have to pin the magazine.
Now, you can't have wrist rockets, correct?
Sorry?
You can't have wrist rockets.
What's a wrist rocket?
It's like a big slingshot. A wrist rocket is something that we would use and put ball bearings in.
Oh, slingshots were banned long before 96.
Okay, and you can't have spear guns connected to air.
No spear guns connected to air. Crossbows are now illegal. Regular archery, though, is. And if your spear gun uses the giant rubber bands, that is fine. Although they have outlawed power tips, where you would put a bullet into a tip for hitting the bigger fish. When it hit, it would explode and so on. They're all no-nos now.
Okay, because why should you be able to defend yourself?
Also, civilians are not allowed to own paintball guns. Anyone that's running a paintball operation has to own the guns, and they're individually licensed to actually possess those. So paintball is out. Airsoft is an absolute no-no. There's been a movement to try and get airsoft legalised in Australia now, basically since '96. And every time they keep coming up, terrorists might use them to train. And my argument to that is terrorists have been training with plywood cutouts for decades. What's the difference?
Terrorists could use paintballs. Paintballs.
Yeah. I mean, it's all just so... railguns are banned. I used to like playing around and making small railguns. Compressed air potato cannon.
I was just going to ask that next. Let's see. Potato guns. They got to be next. They got to be in there.
No, they were included. See, the definition of a firearm in Australia is very broad. Anything that fires a projectile via a spring mechanism, compressed gas,